So what is a date table? A date table, also known as a date dimension or calendar table, is a table that contains a list of dates and other relevant information about those dates. Having a date table or a calendar table in a data model can be beneficial for several reasons. First, by having a calendar table, you can easily perform time-based analysis, such as calculating year-to-date, month-to-date, or quarter-to-date figures. This can be particularly helpful when dealing with time series data, as it allows you to easily group and aggregate data by time periods. Having a calendar table can also simplify date-related calculations by providing standardized date columns with consistent formats. This can help avoid errors or inconsistencies in calculations that may arise when using different date formats or systems. A calendar or date table can also be used as a filter in a data model, allowing users to easily filter data by date ranges. Additionally, the table can be used to drill down into more granular time periods, such as days, weeks, or months. Having a date table can also be used to create more informative and visually appealing reports and dashboards by allowing you to add date-related columns and hierarchies to charts and graphs. Finally, in many businesses, different departments or systems may use different calendars or fiscal years. By using a calendar table or a date table as a common reference point, you can easily integrate data from different sources and departments. These are the steps for creating a data table. So you'll notice that I have a blank Excel workbook open, and I'm going to start by creating a blank query in Power Query. So to do this, I'm going to click on my Data tab, which will bring me to the Data ribbon. And from here, I'm going to select Get Data from Other Sources and Blank Query. Now, once the query opens up, I have an opportunity to type directly into the formula bar of the Power Query editor. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. I'm going to type in an equal sign, and I'm going to create a list. But more than just creating a list of consecutive numbers, what I want to do is I want to create a list of consecutive dates between two dates. So to do this, I'm creating a list function. So I'm going to be using my curly brackets to indicate that this is in fact a list. And then I'm going to type in number dot from, indicating that I'm going to have a starting number, and I'm going to do an open bracket. And next I'm going to tell Power Query that in fact this is a date that I'm going to be inputting next. I have another open bracket, and I'm going to put in the starting date. Now, the date format I'm going to use is year, month, day. So for 2022, I'm going to put my starting date as 2022, January, which is 1, 1st, which is 1. From here, I am going to go past my closing brackets to finish that off. I'm going to put my 2 dots because, again, this is going to indicate that it's going to fill in the blanks between my numbers. And I'm then going to type in again, number from, indicate that this is a date. And I'm going to put in the ending date. So for 2022, 12/31, and I've got my brackets here. So next I can click on the check mark, and next you can see that Excel Power Query has created a list for me. So this is great, but I can see that these are numbers. Now, why are these numbers? Well, just remember that Excel stores dates as numbers. Number 1 being January 1st, 1900. And so date number 2, January 1st, 2022 is actually number 44,562. So from here, though, we have a list. We actually want to convert this to a table. So up on your ribbon, on your transform ribbon, you can see that there is a table button. So we're going to convert our list to a table. And from here, it's asking us about if we have any delimiters and how do we want to handle extra columns. So we're just going to use the defaults here, and we're going to say, okay. And so now again, this information is now, rather than a list, it's in a table. And once it's in a table, we can do things like rename the column header. We can also change the format of this column. And so let's go ahead and do that. And so let's go ahead and click on the formatting button, and we're going to change this value to date. And voila, you can see that in fact, that number that was 44,562 is now changed to January 1st, 2022. Let's go ahead and rename that column to just date to reflect what the value of the information in there is. And from here, we can go ahead and add multiple columns to this date table. So let's go ahead, and we've highlighted the date column. I've selected the add column ribbon. And from here, I'm going to use the from, date, and time functions, and I can add different dimensions. So as an example, I may want to include the name of the day. Next, I might want to include the end of the week. I might also want to include the month, the name. Let's do the name of the month. We might also want to do the number of the month. And then finally, let's go ahead and add in the quarter, and we could add in the year as well. So here we go, and let's add the year. So now you'll notice that we have all of this information here. Let's name our query appropriately, just call this dates. And from here, we can close and load this data. Now you may choose to load this data only as a connection. I'm going to load it into the model just so that we can have a look at it. Let's create it as a connection and add it to the data model. And from here, we can see that we've loaded 365 rows. Makes sense, there are 365 days in a year. And we can see that that information has now been loaded into our data model. And let's go ahead and say, well, why would we want to do this rather than just creating a table in Excel and loading that data? It's much easier to update this if we wanted to add a new year's worth of information. So as an example, I might open up my query and say, you know, I'm actually starting a new calendar year in my business, and therefore I'm going to add in and have the end date be 2023. And so just by quickly changing that one step, closing and loading my query, you can now see that I have dates for multiple years in my data model. So that's a quick and easy way to create a date table in Microsoft Power Query. While it is possible to create a date table in Microsoft Excel using a worksheet and formulas, you can more easily create a dynamic table using Power Query. Overall, a calendar table is a powerful tool that can help improve the efficiency and accuracy of time-based analysis in a data model. By providing a standardized way to represent and analyze time periods, it can help businesses make more informed decisions and gain deeper insights into their data.